Wizard in therapy. Once upon a time, in a land where magic was as common as cheese on pizza, there was a wizard named Marvin the Magnificent. Now, Marvin wasn't just any wizard. He was a very powerful wizard with a long, flowing beard that looked like a mop and robes so sparkly that they could make you squint in broad daylight. His hat was so tall it made him look like a walking ice cream cone, complete with a pointy tip that occasionally got stuck in doorways. Despite all his magical abilities, Marvin had a problem, a very big problem, and that problem was his emotions. You see, Marvin had mastered fireballs, levitation, and transforming sheep into pianos. But when it came to dealing with his feelings, well, let's just say he was a bit of a disaster. So one day, after accidentally turning his pet cat, Mr. Whiskers, into a dragon again, Marvin decided it was time for a change. "I need help," Marvin muttered to himself, gazing into the enchanted mirror, which was currently showing him a picture of a sandwich. It's time to go to therapy, and so Marvin set off for the magical therapist known as Dr. Fiddlesticks, a tiny old gnome with half-moon glasses and a tendency to wear socks with sandals. Dr. Fiddlesticks was known far and wide for his work with troubled wizards, witches, and the occasional confused unicorn. When Marvin arrived, Dr. Fiddlesticks greeted him warmly. "Ah, Marvin, the Magnificent. Come in, sit down. Make yourself comfortable. We'll start with a few deep breaths." Marvin frowned. "But I can breathe fire. Does that count as deep breathing?" Dr. Fiddlesticks adjusted his glasses. "Not quite, but let's give it a try. In through the nose, out through the mouth." Marvin inhaled deeply. Whoosh! He exhaled, causing a small fireball to shoot out of his nose, singeing Dr. Fiddlesticks' favorite purple hat. Let's try again, but with less fire, shall we?" Dr. Fiddlesticks chuckled, a little singed but still quite calm. "Tell me, Marvin, what's troubling you?" Marvin shifted uncomfortably in his chair, which was made from enchanted cloud fluff and kept floating upwards. He quickly cast a spell to anchor it down. "Well, Doc, I've been having some emotional difficulties. Like the time I accidentally turned my neighbor's house into a giant marshmallow. Sure, it was hilarious, but they'd get really upset." Dr. Fiddlesticks nodded sagely. "Ah, yes. The consequences of uncontrolled magic. Tell me more. What's the root of the problem?" Marvin scratched his chin. "I think it's because I never learned how to handle my feelings. Whenever I get mad, I just blow stuff up. When I get sad, I turn my laundry into frogs. And when I'm really happy, I make it rain candy, which sounds fun, but it's very sticky." Dr. Fiddlesticks said, stroking his chin. "That sounds quite chaotic. How do you feel about, say, talking about your feelings without magic?" Marvin paused. "Without magic? But that's crazy. I mean, what if I need to levitate my chair or zap something with lightning to feel better? How am I supposed to feel good without turning things into gold or causing a minor earthquake?" Dr. Fiddlesticks tapped his chin. "Marvin, magic is a wonderful tool, but it can't fix everything. Sometimes the best spell is talking it out, understanding where those feelings come from, and learning to accept them." Marvin stared at the gnome. "Wait, you're saying I can't just turn my problems into a giant chicken?" "No," Dr. Fiddlesticks replied with a knowing smile. "As fun as that would be, let's try something different. Let's take it one step at a time. How do you feel right now, Marvin?" Marvin thought for a moment. "I feel kind of annoyed." Annoyed? And why is that?" Dr. Fiddlesticks asked gently. Well, I think it's because people never take me seriously, Marvin admitted, slumping in his chair. They see the sparkles, the fireworks, the giant floating hats, and they assume I'm just some funny, bumbling wizard. But when I want to talk about important things, like my inner struggles, they just laugh and say, "Oh, Marvin, stop making it rain jelly beans." Dr. Fiddlesticks nodded thoughtfully. "Sounds like you're feeling misunderstood. That's tough. But do you think the way you express your feelings could be making it harder for people to understand you?" Marvin blinked. "You mean, I might be overcompensating with the explosions and candy storms? Like, I'm using magic to distract from my emotions?" Dr. Fiddlesticks smiled warmly. "Exactly. Sometimes, when we don't know how to express what's inside, we act out in big ways, hoping people will notice. But real change comes from talking, listening, and understanding what's behind the fireworks." Marvin sat back, contemplating this. Okay, I'll try it. No more turning my feelings into exploding pumpkins or raining marshmallows. I'll talk. Good. Start small, Dr. Fiddlesticks encouraged. "Why don't you tell me about the last time you felt really frustrated?" Marvin took a deep breath, this time without fire, and began to share. He talked about how hard it was to live up to everyone's expectations, how sometimes he felt lonely even though he had the power to create entire forests with a single thought. And, just as Dr. Fiddlesticks had predicted, the more Marvin talked, the lighter he felt. By the end of the session, Marvin was actually smiling. No magic required. "Doc, this is amazing. I feel better already." Dr. Fiddlesticks chuckled. "I'm glad, Marvin. Sometimes the greatest magic is within us, not in spells or potions. It's in our ability to express ourselves and connect with others." Marvin stood up, feeling lighter than he had in years. "I'm going to go to the bakery now. I think I deserve a muffin." Dr. Fiddlesticks gave him a wink. "Just don't turn it into a dragon." Marvin grinned. "I promise, unless it's chocolate chip. Then all bets are off." And so Marvin the Magnificent learned a valuable lesson that day. Magic is powerful, but it's even more powerful to face your emotions head-on and share them with others. He left Dr. Fiddlestick's office, knowing that sometimes the most enchanting things aren't the spells we cast, but the conversations we have. The end. Asterisk lesson asterisk sometimes. It's tempting to use distractions or magic to avoid dealing with our emotions, but learning to express ourselves honestly and connect with others can bring about real healing and growth.